To the Coach's Corner. Coach Hath, going to talk to you a little bit about quarterback play today. Again, testing out some new things here where I'm going to try to toggle back and forth between me talking and the PowerPoint that I have set up. Wanted to talk today about coaching quarterbacks just to kind of preview the rest of the week. Had a lot of interest in people wanting to come on and show different things. Tomorrow we're going to have Coach Roche on. Doing a talk on culture and team building. Going to be a Zoom interview with him and I. It's going to be pretty sweet. Thursday, I've got Coach Bach coming in. My line coach is going to come in and talk D-line techniques. We're a 3-4 team, but I think a lot of it will apply across the board, but specifically we're going to get into some of the reads that we teach in our 3-4, so I think that's going to be a good session. Tentative, but I think it's going to work out. Going to get Jason McLeod from Portland High School in to talk screen game a little bit on Thursday as well. So we'll have two presentations that day. And then Friday, Coach Lippert is going to kind of go through the Coney pass game with you guys a little bit. They've obviously been pretty prolific in their passing game. So looking forward to that. And going into next week, I got Coach Kiesel from TA lined up to do some play calling stuff. Coach Coop lined up for a two-part session on defending the spread. You're going to do one day on the run, one day on the pass. You got some 8-man topics lined up. Some of those guys, Coach Radolski from Hebron Academy, Coach Shuki from over at Kents Hill, Coach Plant at OOB. Some of those guys are going to be presenting. And also going to look into doing some of these live on Zoom with the opportunity for people to answer questions, as well as some roundtable discussions. I'm going to try to set those up maybe for the tail end of this week or beginning of next week. Maybe have one 11-man discussion and talk classification and kind of what this summer's looking like, and maybe get an 8-man round table as well. Also spoken to a lot of college coaches over the course of the week and kind of lining those guys up. So it's getting to the point here where we should be able to put out multiple things a day and really help you guys out. So wanted to let me see if I can do this. All right, I think that should be on you guys' screen pretty good there. Just want to make sure, I'm going to check on my end that things are up and going live. If I can do that real quick. Yeah, looks like it's going. Let's see if how's the audio doing. Audio seems pretty good. Yeah, looks like it's going. Sweet. All right, so we'll get right into this. Coaching quarterbacks today. Excited about this topic for sure. We've certainly had some good ones here at LEAVITT over time. Certainly you can go back, and I'll bring up a list in a minute, but we've had some pretty good success coaching the quarterbacks. I played quarterback myself in high school. I was not super successful, maybe as a player or that dynamic of a passer, but certainly being around the game of football for a long time and working under some different coaches and picked up some good things along the way. And since we went to the spread in 2004, we've done a pretty good job of churning out some guys who are pretty good double threats and pretty prolific passers. So we're just going to talk through today kind of some drills that we did with those guys, the kind of philosophy that we're going to take in coaching the quarterback, how we develop their arm, how we develop their feet, how we develop their reads, kind of what their week of practice looks like, and some things like that. And again, I would plug the main elite camp in the summer. You get a chance, if your kids attend, it's the week after July 4th. Myself and Coach Cooper are the two quarterback guys, and certainly for my son, who was our quarterback the past 2 seasons, for him to get the opportunity to work with Coach Coop in the summer and work with Coach Lip as well, who does a lot with play calling in the 7-on-7 in the afternoon, that's been really, really good for him. So we'll kind of take you through this here. So the first thing, just to talk a little bit about our quarterback success here at LEAVITT. throw some names up there: Tyler Angel, Evan Barker, Eric Thies, Jordan Herson, Levi Craig, Tim Albert. All those guys were all conference. All those guys were Fitzpatrick semifinalists. All of them played quarterback at some point in college. Tyler Angel and Evan Barker up at Maine Maritime. Tyler Angel was super successful there. 3-year starter up there and a captain. Eric Thies was at Maine for a while and ended up breaking his hand. So unfortunately he had to get done, but he set a bunch of records in the lobster bowl. Jordan Herson won the Fitzpatrick Trophy, and had a good career up at Husson. Levi Craig was up at Husson for a spell. He holds a lot of the records at Leavitt now. And then Timmy Albert is currently at Husson, hopefully competing for a job up there. Certainly has turned himself into a nice one. Billy Bedard and DeAndre James, those are guys that they didn't play quarterback in college, but they were quarterbacks for us, and played DB in college. And then even sometimes when you don't have that prolific quarterback, I've heard the sentiment before, if you've got more than one quarterback, you really don't have any. But we went to a state championship and won it in 2013, playing 3 different Qs almost every single game. And we played all 3 of them in the state game, and Billy Bedard was part of that rotation. But if you don't have one guy, maybe you've got a couple, and you can use them in different ways to emphasize their strengths and do that. Certainly see a lot now with some Wildcat guys, and that sort of thing. And then currently, my son Wyatt's our quarterback. He's a 2-time all-conference guy. He's got another year left as a senior next year. He's Regional Player of the Year this year. He just got named by Max Preps as the top-ranked player for 2020 moving forward. I put his huddle clips just if you just want to watch some quarterback plays. That's a good thing to do. You also can go back in the archives and take a look at my my pass game talk and my jet sweep talk, and kind of see some of those things that that we're going to talk about here, and see how they play out on the field. So the first thing that I kind of think of when we talk about training our quarterbacks is a little bit like training a Jedi Knight. In our offense, we are putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback to make really good decisions pre-snap and post-snap. And to do that, you really have to develop them in a very holistic type of sense, physically, mentally, and you're trying to train their instincts. So we've kind of broken it down into those parts, and we really try to develop them in all 3 of those areas to maximize what they can do on the field. There has to be a huge trust factor between whoever's coaching the quarterback and who's calling the plays in the quarterback. And I felt like I've always had a really good relationship with my quarterbacks. I think that those guys they've got to be the leader of your team typically, but they have to be able to play with confidence. And if you can't play with confidence, then that's a problem. When we haven't had a good quarterback, it's been guys that aren't confident. So I've always tried to build them up. I don't harp on them too much, like publicly in front of the team when they make a lot of mistakes. A lot more of it is kind of behind closed doors when we're meeting on our own. But we really want those guys to feel confident about what they're doing. We try to give them a lot of input into the game plan. If they see things out there, we kind of tell them to roll with it, and we try to develop that trust factor. And then if they miss some things, we coach them up on it and try to improve it. But in terms of the physical training, we're really going to spend a lot of time on the core and the hips, obviously on their feet and footwork, on trying to strengthen their arm and improve their accuracy, and overall condition. We're a tempo team, we're a no huddle team, so certainly the quarterback being able to be in good condition and maximize what he's doing out there, that's what we want to be about. Typically our quarterbacks don't play defense. That's not always the case. This year, Wyatt didn't really play any defense the first half of the season. We had a lot of injuries. We had kind of known for a while that we might use him at free safety in some nickel or dime situations, and then at the end of the year, he ended up playing some. But certainly if you have a 2-way guy, that conditioning piece is even more important. In terms of the mental training, we want them to hear it from us. We want to talk about things a lot. We want them to study it. So we do a lot of film work. We want them to draw it. So when we're meeting, sometimes we ask them to draw things up. We want them to see it. So, the study it is both playbook and film, and then the see it really is, let's look at some things on tape. When you're not the guy taking the reps, you should be looking, like when our second quarterback is in there, I want Wyatt standing behind him and coaching his backup a little bit. And, if those guys have a good rapport, that's helpful too. They can help each other out. They can talk about different things they see, and the more they're talking about it and the more they're doing it, the better off they are. And obviously, in terms of the instinct part of it, the reps are huge. You have to find a way to maximize the number of reps that you can get for your quarterback in reading different situations over the entire practice. And it's easier if that dude doesn't play defense, because when we're in our defensive segments on Wednesdays, which is kind of our heavy defense day, where we're going to have an indie group and team on the other side of the ball, you can build some things in there for that guy to do something. So quite often, when our defense is doing their 7-on-7 period, our first team quarterback is throwing for at least half of that. While they're doing defensive indie, he's over getting a quarterback indie in, so that on the offense day during the quarterback indie, maybe we can send him with the running backs, maybe we can send him with the wideouts. We can do some different things there. But you have to get the reps, and I would say the most important part of our group period is when we do our jet sweep timing and our read option stuff and our RPO stuff. We're trying to just get as many reps as we can with those periods and rifling those off so that they're becoming a more instinctual player. And just a note on kind of on correcting kids. Let me slide this back over. Instead of just standing there correcting, saying, well, you should have done this, or this was the read, or you should have done that, I always phrase it as, hey, what did you see right there? Because that puts it, that gives him some ownership. Hey, this is what I saw, and I can chime in with what I saw. But trying to, it's almost like teaching in a class. It's no different. You want to try to lead the kids to the right understanding, not just tell them what that understanding is all the time. So that I think builds a good trust between the quarterback and the coach as well. So we'll talk about technique a little bit. In terms of technique, a few things that we focus. One is standing tall. Our quarterback is fairly short to begin with right now. We've had all types. Eric Thies was 6'3", and Wyatt's 5'10" with his cleats on a good day. But you want your quarterback to stand tall, and you want them to forget, not everything, but you want them to forget a lot about what they've learned as a baseball player. In baseball, when you're a pitcher, and football, when you're a quarterback, those things really don't equate to each other. Pitching is a lot of sinking your hips, drop and drive, that type of motion. The launch angle is different with the tilt of the shoulders. You really want a downward tilt when you're pitching, whereas you want a little bit more of an upward tilt when you're throwing the football to get the correct launch angle. So we coach our guys a lot on standing tall. Elbow, wrist, triangle, locked and loaded. You don't want guys who get their elbows out and squeeze the ball this way and move like this. We want a soft squeeze on the football. You guys can't see that when I get that over there, but soft squeeze on the football, triangle between the wrist and both of the elbows, so they're locked and loaded. We want a short circle, pushing back and away from the chest when the ball goes back. So you have to tell them if they're an outfielder or a pitcher, you can't throw like that. I know when I coached baseball at Oak Hill several years ago, we used to talk a lot to the infielders and the catchers about when you throw, you're taking the bottom half out of the circle, because we wanted those guys to have a quicker release. It's the same deal in football. You can't drop the ball all the way down. One of my coaches used to call it planting a radish. You can't bring the ball down below your waist. When it's here, it stays between your nipples, and then when you cut the bottom half out of that circle, the ball should stay above your belly button. Okay, and you push back and away from the chest. No wind up. We want your arm to be as powerful as it can be with the quickest release you can have and the most accurate throw you can have. When you do draw the ball back, you want the elbow to be high. You want that L position. Okay, and you want the ball tight to your head. You don't want it way out here. And your elbow should lead the shoulders and the wrist. The elbow should be a little bit ahead of the shoulders and the wrist when they're coming through. We want to clear with the front arm and the front shoulder this way to generate some power in our core to push through the ball. and then we want to come over the top and extend with our arm and fire that tricep. And in the weight room, I would say the most important thing for quarterbacks, other than their core, is to make sure that they build their tricep, and then at the same time also build their biceps, so there's not a huge discrepancy there. That way you don't get a bicep tendonitis or that sort of thing. But guys that hook the ball a little bit more or don't have that elbow leading, those are the guys that are going to develop that biceps tendonitis that you want to avoid. Okay, and then we work a lot on flicking the wrist, following through with the palm down to the opposite hip pocket. So I got a couple of pictures I can show there. I'll put the slide up again for a minute. Okay, but that's kind of technique. I would say, we also just want kids to be comfortable, so we don't overcoach this. And also, Coach Coop is by far the best teacher I've seen on coaching quarterback mechanics. If you ever get a chance to come down to our camp and see him work with guys, he does the technique section, throwing technique, in our camp, and it's pretty sweet. So these ones just kind of show standing tall in the pocket, shows the triangle locked and loaded. Balls between the nipples. He's got a pretty good stance there, ready to deliver. Okay, the next one, you can see his elbows leading the shoulder and the wrist. You can see that front arm is kind of clearing through to generate some power. Okay, and then you can see on the follow through, the wrist is down. Okay, and he's following through the opposite hip pocket. I remember Coach Wilder, when I sat in on his talks years ago, when he was up at Maine, used to talk a lot about if there was a dollar bill in your opposite hip pocket, you'd want to pick it up. And that was kind of the finish. So we've maintained that and kind of worked hard on that. So I'll move on. Developing arm talent. We always emphasize accuracy. So accuracy is huge for us. We're constantly telling our quarterbacks that when we go through our throwing progression to start practice, and we have some different things that we throw in there. It's not the same every day. We try to mix it up and keep it fresh for those guys. They're going to make 3 to 5 throws of all these different things. Every throw they're making, they should be aiming between the face mask and the numbers. And to me, accuracy is the most important quality when we're talking about quarterback play and throwing the football. An accurate quarterback, there's just there's nothing better than that. The guy that can put it on a dime, that's invaluable. Sometimes you have good receivers that can create a lot of separation, and they're able to do that. You just got to put it up and let them go get it. But there's more often than that, you probably at least here where we are, you have guys, you got to throw them open a little bit. We were fortunate enough the last couple of years to have 2 big, tall targets. You could kind of throw it anywhere around them. But we've got some other guys that they're speed guys, and they can get a little separation, but it's certainly a smaller window that you gotta fit it into. So always emphasize your accuracy. So I'm going to actually film some of this stuff. It probably won't be today because it's snowed out pretty good here. And I don't know how crazy my kids will be about throwing in the yard when it's snowing. They probably would, but I'm going to get Wyatt and Sawyer to go through some of these drills together, and I'll kind of put them up so you can see them, and how they're doing it and some of the coaching points that we would have. But when we start throwing progression, every day the quarterbacks will do one, and we'll just give them kind of a list of these are the 5 or 6 that we want you to do today. So one is let's emphasize the core. So we have them do, again, this is 3 to 5 throws each. We'll have them sit down facing each other about 10 yards apart, and they're just sitting, they have to twist and throw. So they're working their core, kind of working, leading with the elbow and getting the ball out and just throwing with their core strength. Then they'll stand up, still 10 yards apart. They'll do a 1-step drop and a 3-step drop. There's a lot of different drops that a lot of guys use. There's 1-step, 2-step, 3-step, rhythm 3, all of those. We pretty much do everything as what we would call a 1-step, 3-step, either one of those, and then we kind of let the quarterbacks, depending on the kid and what he feels comfortable with, we kind of let him decide what the best thing for him is. And that's probably an area where Wyatt's drawn more from Coach Coop, and he's learned some subtle differences between things, and he kind of applies them. But we don't overcoach that a heck of a lot unless it's something that we see, is having a real adverse impact. Mostly it's on, these are 1-step throws, these are routes where we need to get the ball out quick. These are three-step throws where the receivers need a little bit more time to get to the landmarks and make their breaks. So we kind of differentiate it that way. So they'll take 3 to 5 one-step throws at 10 yards, 3 to 5 three-step throws at 10 yards. Then they'll go three-step angle. So I didn't, let me see if I can grab this board over here and a marker. I'll show you guys what that looks like. This is the ever popular Studio B that we've kind of taken over to do some of this stuff. So when we do the angle throws, we'll put the quarterback so that there's 10 yards this way and there's also 10 yards that way. Okay, and they're going to step and then throw at an angle, and then he'll step and throw at an angle, and they just keep moving back and forth. So then once they've done that, where the angle is to the right for both of them, then they'll move, then we'll go to the left. That way they're working on the straight drop back, but delivering the ball to one side or the other, getting that front toe, that front hip pointed at the target, and following through towards the target. Then we'll do some RPO throws. Move this just a little bit over here. We'll do some RPO throws where basically it's the turn 2 throw. Okay, so they're just going to have the ball, they're going to quickly turn like they would turn 2 on the double play, and they're just going to toss back and forth at 10 yards for that. We'll go some no laces where they're just trying to rapid fire. Sometimes we do, I don't think I put it in here, but we do have a rapid fire drill that we do as well, where you just sit there and keep firing balls at them, and they got to throw them no laces, and they have a little competition for accuracy. But sometimes on some of these screen throws or some of these RPOs or whatever, you don't have the laces. So we always try to work that in. And then they always like to take a trash can, put it down in the corner of the end zone, and they'll do some trash can fades. So that's kind of the menu that we use for our throwing progression, at least our stationary or just our 1 and 3 step stuff. And then we kind of move into throwing on the run. So like I said, we'll pick 3, 4 of those each day. They'll do them and kind of move through them. That's how they warm up. Also didn't put in here, another one that they like to do is long toss. They just, they kind of start at 10 and they just keep backing up and making a toss. Backing up 5 yards at a time until they make one complete circle to his right. He's throwing into the guy, clear through hard with that front arm, and then fall through at your target. We do it. Keep getting the low internet speed. And we have a couple different versions of chase that we'll play. Profile, and then we can throw in those RPO throws. We can do rollout, and I think we finished this year with the fewest turnovers that we've ever had. So we do our all sorts of stuff like that. Okay, and do drops and shuffles. Okay, so we do that. This may not be going very well live because the internet quite lefty this year. My younger son, but he's going to receiver next year, so it shouldn't be an issue. All sorts of different drills that we do there. Let me just bounce ahead. I'm going to get to pocket movement in a minute. So with the one rush, get the snap, he's going to take the drop, and the rushers are here. One of them's going to come throw to, and we're just working on those non-traditional throws where you really don't get to set your feet and whatever. You can kind of mix it up and do whatever you want to do, but that usually brings you to set up behind the tackle, and then we want to feel the edge. So I'll either come, knowing how to throw those screens to the tailback. The more guys you have and the more ability you have to do some of this, the better. Sometimes you can just bring a couple of younger receivers down or whatever. But you can do that and add this. Those are a little easier, and it's important on the sits that you work with the quarterbacks on carrying out the fake, so that sit guy can't get back in and get down in there on the play. Our screen throws, we'll get in all of our slip screen throws with the, in our terminology, we'll go through our route tree and we'll go double post, right? So we'll go like that and seams. Back shoulder fade is a great route in the red zone. We'll do a 5-minute segment for us on Tuesdays, and another probably group time, heavy. We want to hit that, some stock blocking in, and then sometimes we'll have another coach here as a second, coaching it up and firing reps pretty good. So, and then he pitches it to the slot. Okay, so he'll ride the tailback, give it, and you call the same play, and they run it this way, and then a little bit. I think the more competitive you can make things in practice, the better, and that sort of thing. So we can send our second quarterback down with those guys. Okay, so the next slide is on team. What do we do in team? Up your team periods so that it narrows the focus for the quarterback. So the quarterback knows how to run the huddle. As I said before, it's important to score, but we need to take all the 2 minutes so that we don't leave time on the clock for them. You got to do a lot on third down. You got to spend some time and probably be good on third and long. We want to be good on fourth and medium, and we also want to be good in the at some point over